Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us on this Gradcracker webinar with Experian. I would firstly like to introduce the Gradcracker members of the panel. So my name's Carla, a director at Gradcracker, and I have worked with Experian for a number of years. Experian advertise their placement and graduate opportunities on Gradcracker. And Sophie,
Thank you, Carla. Yep. Hi, everyone. I'm Sophie, also a director here at Gradcracker, and I look after a number of the other employers that advertise with us. And I will be supporting Carla on the webinar today.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sophie. So during this webinar, our aim is to find out more about Experian. We will talk about who they are, what they do, and also what opportunities you, our STEM students, can apply for this year on Gradcracker. Starting with our contact, Catherine, from the Early Careers team, we'll have an introduction to the business and also their opportunities. We're also joined by graduates Sam, Karen Deep and Collins, and we will speak to the graduates about what life is like for them, what projects that they have worked on, if they're involved in any networking groups, what training and development they have received, and also, and excitingly, their future plans. We will then end the webinar by discussing the recruitment process and giving you an idea of how you can be successful. During this part of the webinar, we will also speak to the graduates who can give their insight about how they use Gradcracker to apply to Experian and how they have had a successful career so far. We will then ask them some of the questions that you have submitted and to be raised during the webinar as well. So thank you everybody for taking the time to send those questions in. And as I say, we'll be asking those a little bit later on. So let's get started and meet Experian. Catherine, welcome. Thank you for joining us. So can you tell everybody a little bit more about you and Experian?
Yeah, absolutely. So hi, everyone. Quick introduction to me. So my name's Catherine and I'm a talent acquisition partner here in the early careers team at Experian. It's quite a long job title. Essentially what that means is that I support with the recruitment of graduates, placement students, and also apprentices into the business. So Experian then, so we're a global business, we're a data and technology company, so we're based in 32 different countries across the globe. We've got over 23,000 employees across those countries as well. And we offer a range of different products and services across various different markets, such as financial services, automotive, insurance, and lots of others.
Perfect. And people who are watching Catherine might be a little bit intimidated by the 32,000 people who work at Experian. So if those students are a little bit intimidated, what would you say? Because I know personally from working with you, there's a really big family feel there, like we have at Gradcracker. So would you kind of second that thought?
Absolutely, yeah. So I mean, despite us being a global company and having so many employees across different countries, there is a real kind of, like you say, that family feel within the business. I mean, we do split ourselves up into regions. So here we're the UK and Ireland region. Yeah, we have 3 different offices across the UK, mainly in Nottingham and London, and yeah, really kind of that nice family feel when you are in the office. Lots of familiar faces, so don't let that daunt you at all.
Definitely that comes across. And we have spoken to Experian a number of times now. We know we've held webinars with you for quite a few years, and we always like to run like a mythbuster round with you guys about misconceptions about Experian. And I'm sure that you've heard a lot with what you do over the years and speaking to as many students as you've spoken to. So what kind of misconceptions would you like to bust during this webinar?
I think the biggest myth that I'd like to bust about Experian is that we are a credit score company. I think when everyone thinks Experian, they think, oh yeah, you're that company that provides credit scores. And yes, we are. That is very true. And that is the side of Experian that's more well known. You might use an Experian product yourself, like Experian Credit Expert, or you might have seen our adverts on TV saying check your Experian credit score. But we actually do so much more outside of that as well. And I do think that's what makes Experian a really exciting place to start your career as a graduate. We work with a lot of clients for like marketing purposes. So as an example, one client that we work with is Sky. Not a lot of people know this actually, but when you're watching a Sky TV channel, the adverts that you see in your household could be different to the adverts that your friends and your family see in another household. And that's because Sky use services provided by Experian to help them understand different areas of the UK and kind of their interests. So what car you drive, what types of holidays you go on. And that means that the adverts are then more tailored to things that you'd be interested in. So that's just one way to kind of bring to life how we work with data in those different ways. But I think I'd take up this whole webinar if I spoke like every day. But yeah, it is a really exciting place to work, and hopefully Karen Deep Collins and Sam can bring that to life on the webinar.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why Sophie's adverts on her telly are all about wine.
Excuse me, Carla.
Thank you very much for that, Catherine. Really appreciate that. And I've just mentioned that you have your roles which are currently live on Gradcracker. So at the moment, you've got a placement that's live, so business operations, and 2 graduate opportunities, so graduate software engineer and also technical consulting engineer. So tell the students, if you can, starting with the placement, a little bit more about those opportunities, deadlines that they should be thinking about, and what's in store.
Yeah, absolutely. So the different opportunities then, so they are in different locations. So our business operations analyst role, you'll be, it's a real kind of key team. You're supporting various different teams, such as like our sales team, making sure like different invoices are going through on time and kind of doing a lot of that background support work, but a real kind of crucial team. We've also got the software engineering opportunity. That one is Nottingham based, but hot off the press, we do have a London role that will be going live very soon, which will also be on Gradcracker. So do keep an eye out for that one. The software engineering role, Sam, it will hopefully tell you all a little bit more about that role a bit later on. So I'll leave that one to Sam for now. Yeah. We do have the technical consultant role. So again, another really exciting role based in London. And this role is great for anyone that's maybe quite technical minded, but good at translating that technical work into non-tech language and kind of wants to be more on that client's facing role. So yeah, another great role there. Another upcoming role as well, just to let you all know, we have a graduate data analyst role that will be going live over the next couple of weeks too on Gradcracker. So there'll be lots going on these next couple of weeks. Roles will be closing, roles will be going live. My recommendation is just to get your application in sooner rather than later, to make sure that you do get your application in on time.
Well, you heard it here first, everybody. So there's 2 opportunities which are going to be opening very soon on Gradcracker. And so make sure you give Experian a quick follow and be the first to be alerted by email and push notification about those opportunities as soon as they go live. And like Catherine and I mentioned a little bit earlier on, there are 3 opportunities, so placement and 2 grad opportunities, which are currently live for you to get your applications in straight after this webinar. Like Catherine says, make sure you get your applications in sooner rather than later. But there are some deadlines on the opportunities which are also on the job listing on Gradcracker when you go and have a look. Catherine, last question. I think it's the last question. Yes, it is nearly the last question. I did this on the prep session.
You did? I was just thinking.
No, it's not. The roles are generally based in, like you just mentioned, Nottingham and London. I'm guessing that's the same for this year from what you've just mentioned.
Yeah, so pretty much our roles are kind of a 50-50 split across Nottingham and London. So despite the different locations, though, we do try and bring our grads together as much as possible. So Nottingham is actually the bigger office out of the 2. So where we can, we do bring our London grads up to the Nottingham office and do big kind of socials and things for everyone to get to know each other. But yeah, split across the 2 locations.
Yeah. And hybrid working, tell me about that.
So hybrid working at Experian, it can vary team by team. So generally it's around 2 days in the office per week, but some teams, like for example, like our sales teams may come into the office a little bit more because they're client facing, but most early careers roles are 2 days in the office. Especially for grads, we do encourage grads to come into the office more in those early days. We really see the benefit of that of kind of coming into the office environment, getting to know people, shadowing. So we do encourage to come in more where possible as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Catherine. And I did tell a big lie because you mentioned at the beginning of the webinar as well about all of the different locations that Experian's based. Is there room, maybe when students have rolled off the graduate programme, for international travel?
So in some roles, yes, not all roles, so I can't guarantee that. However, there are job opportunities across all of our different locations. So certainly, I mean, I've worked with people in HR who have moved out to Costa Mesa and other offices because they've seen other HR roles become available. So that is certainly an opportunity later down the line, if it's something you're interested in.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that, Catherine. That introduction was absolutely amazing, as I knew it would be. So what we'll do towards the end of the webinar is we'll join Catherine again just to talk all about the recruitment process and hints and tips. But now Sophie will speak to the grads who all found their jobs on Gradcracker and watched this webinar last year. Sophie.
Thank you very much, Carla. Yeah, so I'm going to come around and find out a little bit more about everybody. And Sam, I'm going to start with you. So can you start by just telling us a little bit about yourself, where you went to uni, what you studied, etc.?
Yeah. Sorry. Yes, I went to uni in Liverpool, and I did computer science there. I did a bachelor's just in pure computer science. There are a couple different options there, but I just did regular computer science. And I'm now a software engineer here. I've been here for about like 6 months.
Amazing.
Yeah, a bit over 6 months.
Perfect. So tell me a little bit about the graduate software engineering program that you're on. Catherine mentioned that there's going to be a software engineering scheme going live. So tell us a little bit more about what that involves.
Yeah, well, it's really good. I think one of my favorite things about it is that I got like stuck into actual work quite quickly. There's a load of testing resources, and my manager was really clear that if I wanted to, I could take more time on that, but I wanted to get working because I feel like that's the best way for me to learn.
Yep.
So I got working right away. I work in a team of I think about 10 people. And we're making a product which isn't live yet. So we're all kind of working on everything. So it's a really good way of getting used to a big product, which was kind of my main fear going into a big software role, a big company, is one of those, 20,000 lines of code that I've never seen before. So they're really good at like getting me up to speed, giving me time to do training. And there's still training that I do sometimes just in my own time at work to kind of upskill myself, which is really good.
Great stuff. And is the graduate program that you're on, is that a 2-year scheme? Tell us a little bit more about that.
It's a 2-year scheme, yeah. So there's like a big cohort of grads, some technical, some not. And outside of even just my role, we do like networking, general work skills, kind of training with the early careers program over the 2 years, which is really good. I think we're starting a corporate social responsibility project soon. I got an email about that today. So I'm looking forward to that, to kind of network outside of my role and stuff.
Yeah. And during those 2 years, so you've been there 6 months now, and like you said, you've kind of dived straight into the product side of things. Will you be staying in the same sort of role, or will you be rotating around different areas, or what does that look like for the next 18 months of the scheme?
Yeah, well, I'm sort of hoping to stay in the same role, but my manager's always been really clear that like if I get into the role and I decide actually this isn't working for me, there are opportunities to move around within the different teams. So yeah, I kind of like that it's an option rather than strict rotations, because then if I enjoy what I do, which I do, I can stay on it. So I'm really happy with that.
That's really nice. Yeah, so you can stay where you are, or you do have the opportunity to move around a little bit more. That's great to know. I think what we'll do is I know Carl's got a question from one of our students, but I do want to come back to you to find out more about the products that you've been working on so far, and also the additional project that you mentioned there in a little while. So we'll come back and find out a bit more about that.
Yeah, thanks for that. So yeah, Sam, so I've got a question from Matt at actually your old University of Liverpool. So hi Liverpool, if you're watching. So Matt is new to university, started in September, and he's just thinking about whether he should join a society and the benefits of being involved in a society. Now, I know you were part of a couple of societies at uni. How do you think being part of a society benefited your experience, not only just at university, but also getting the job at Experian?
Yeah. Sorry.
That was not the time to lose your voice, Sam, on the webinar.
Yeah, I mean, my experience at uni probably quite different to people that are just starting now, because I started in 2020, which is obviously when COVID was happening. So initially, a lot of the societies were all online, so it's kind of just a good way of actually talking to people at uni.
Yeah.
But I think kind of in later years when it got more normal, the thing that I found really good was one, just having kind of like peers, because obviously being interested in computer science at like GCSE and A level, I didn't really have a chance to meet other people who are into that, at least at my school. So that was really good, having like a peer group. And especially, this is the thing I love the most about a couple of my lecturers as well. I don't know if they'll still be there. But it was talking to people that worked in the industry, even if it wasn't about recruitment or anything, just like what does it look like on a day to day. And it was a really good way of kind of understanding how the more like theoretical stuff I was doing would translate. So it's kind of good at placing in my head, like, what can I actually do with this?
Yeah, and it's giving you that, communication skills as well that you've just learned. And I do think everybody can always improve on communication skills, even if they're still at university. And during your application, Sam, did you mention to Catherine and Catherine's team that you were part of the society?
I'm not actually sure. I think I would have mentioned it, yeah, but I never took on sort of like I was never on committees or anything. I was always just there kind of for the social aspect of it. So maybe I didn't. Yeah. I definitely should have if I didn't.
You definitely should. I think for part of this webinar, you absolutely did. So people who are part of the society who are watching, obviously mention it as part of your application. Catherine's nodding away like mad, because it does show you've got those transferable skills and you've got that enthusiasm that you want to do something extracurricular outside your degree as well. So thank you, Sam. Back to you, Soph.
Thank you very much, Carla, and thank you, Sam. Karandeep, I'm coming to you next. Could you give us a bit of an introduction to yourself, please?
Yeah, hi. So I'm Karandeep. I studied maths at Newcastle University. I've been at Experian for 6 months now. I joined the graduate data analyst program. Prior to joining Experian in my second year of uni, I did a summer internship at EY in consulting. Yeah, I've been enjoying my time so far at Experian. I've been enjoying my time on the graduate scheme.
Amazing. Thank you, Karandeep. So you're currently on the data analyst scheme. Tell us a little bit about what you've been doing so far.
Yeah, so our graduate program is structured differently. So we've got 4 6-month rotations over 2 years. So they're actually very carefully thought out because so the data office has many like roles. So they range from like being a data manager to a data analyst to a data scientist. And I didn't really realize until I joined how many jobs there were. So this rotation scheme really gives you the opportunity to understand where you best fit within the data office. So my first rotation is business data, and it's all about sort of building your foundations of your knowledge on like the bureau and how the bureau works at Experian. And then you get to move on to different rotations. So my next rotation is like a data delivery, so more client facing, and then going into more analytics in the rotation after that, and then innovation at the end. So yeah, it gives you a really good experience and knowledge of how the business works and also where your skills lie.
Amazing. So you already know where you're going to be going over the next 18 months from this point. That must be quite nice to know kind of what experience is going to be coming next and can help you sort of plan about what you might want to get out of that particular rotation as well.
Yeah, definitely. So with it being rotation based, it's also still very flexible if you have an interest in a particular area, because there's so many teams within the data office. You can voice that to somebody. So I have a mentor, I can voice that to him. Or one of the things that I'm really keen to do is develop my technical skills. So learning SQL, Python for the data science or data analyst roles. So I'm able to communicate that with my managers in all of my rotations. And they're able to give me work that will help with that and give me more like application-based work so I can really translate those skills into my work.
Amazing. And I think that's brilliant what you've just said there. You've really sat down and thought about where you want to progress, and that must be a great help to your mentors and your managers to know where they can support you. And I think it's just a really good attitude to have generally when you start a role, is looking about how you can expand on those skills. Because like you said, you came from a maths degree, so you didn't necessarily do those sort of specific data science type coding whilst you're at university. Is that right?
Yeah, so we did a bit. So we had like specific modules that were based on like Python and R, but they didn't go into as much detail as you'd need in a job, and also they've got very different contexts. So being able to now apply those skills to real world projects is what I'm looking forward to doing.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Karandeep. I'm going to come back to you in a little while to find out, a bit more about the specifics that you've been working on. But I know we've got another question from the audience now, Carla.
Experian has been very popular with questions, so thank you again, everybody, for submitting those. And we want to talk about your placement, Karandeep, which you did at EY before obviously you started at Experian. And before the webinar, we were having a really good chat about what experiences that the experiences that you gained at EY and why you thought doing a placement was so beneficial. So can you just tell us a little bit more about those again for the webinar, please?
Yeah, so I did a 4-week summer internship in consulting, and it taught me a lot. It taught me that in the future I saw more of a career going into data, because that's where my interest lied. So they had a data team, and I was able to see that, this is actually what I'm more interested in. This is what I'm keen to develop. And also it gave me that opportunity to network with so many new people and meet so many people in the industry, which without that experience is quite hard to get those people's time. And and also I think doing a summer internship really helped in terms of knowing how applications work, knowing how these one-way interviews work, how the assessment centers work, because it is quite an unfamiliar thing, especially a one-way interview. It's something that I found quite hard. Basically you've got no one to bounce off, so kind of learning how that works. And doing that summer internship really gave me the knowledge on what does an employer want to hear, what is the sort of skills that they're looking for, and I was able to tailor my interviews to what I knew that they would want to hear, and also be able to highlight the relevant skills that I have. It also just gives you that commercial awareness of what's going on in different areas, in different industries. So I think in that sense, it really helped, and it gives you that experience of working in a corporate company and how that's going to benefit your career in the future.
Yeah, and you mentioned it was part of the interview process at Experian that they did ask you about your placement and what you got involved with at EY.
Yeah, definitely. So during my assessment centre, the assessment centre was split up when I did it into a group activity, then an interview. And during my interview, one of the first things I was asked was about my summer internship and about my experience at EY. And I was able to call on all of that experience and let them know what I've had experience doing, but also what I can now bring because of that to Experian and bring to my new team.
Thank you very much, Karandeep, and thank you, Olivia from the University of Exeter, for asking that question.
Yeah, thank you very much, Karandeep. I think you made a really good point there about, the internship itself gave you some great experience, but also just the experience of knowing how to apply and going through recruitment processes is so valuable at that early stage. So it's not so much of a surprise when you get to, applying to graduate roles. So thank you very much for that. Collins, last but not least, we are coming over to meet you. Could you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, please?
Okay, afternoon everyone. I'm Collins. I studied chemical engineering at Aston University, and I've been at Experian for about 2 years and 4 months now. So I've actually completed my grad scheme, and I now work as an operational improvement analyst.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, you are the more senior graduate here. So just finished the graduate program and coming from a chemical engineering background. What graduate scheme did you actually join?
So I joined the IT service management grad scheme. So that was 2 years long. Similar to Karandeep, it was 6-month rotations, and I did 4 of them. Because of the business unit I was in at the time, there were so many different teams that were collaborating but doing slightly different things to the overall procedures. And the grad scheme essentially just gave me the opportunity to get a feel of what the different teams are doing, see what I would be best fit for, and just pick up and just network and get to know everyone within that unit. So yeah, it was, I got to do a bit of everything pretty much during my 2 years.
Amazing. And now your current role, tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so as an operational improvement analyst, I'd like to think of it as driving as many efficiencies as possible, reducing costs where possible, reduce handling times where possible. Once again, it all links back to the driving of efficiencies. I feel like a lot of the stints I did during my grad scheme with the 6-month rotations all revolved around that driving of efficiencies. Whether it was from a demand pipeline, whether it's from a technology standpoint, people standpoint, team structure standpoint, it all linked back to the same kind of end goal at the end. And falling into this role, having this role available to me, was just a blessing, pretty much. So slid right into it.
Oh, that's lovely. So we're going to go back a step here, because obviously you came from a chemical engineering background.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think you'd naturally associate being a chemical engineer and going to work for Experian. So tell us a bit about how you kind of fell down the path into finding Experian and then deciding that it was going to be the place for you to grow your career.
Yeah, so studying chemical engineering at Aston University, I went into the degree knowing, yes, I do have a liking towards chemical engineering, but at the same time, I just knew simultaneously that chemical engineering gives me a lot of transferable skills that I could apply in many different STEM roles. So going forward, doing my degree, I even did a placement year after my second year of the degree. This was at Mondelez International, and I actually got a feel of things. I actually got a feel in the industry of chemical engineering. And yeah, I think that's the point of placement years, to see what you do like, to see what you don't like. And that was where I think the pivot really came in, and I started rethinking, okay, finishing my chemical engineering degree, what other roles are available to me out there after uni that are just not directly in chemical engineering, but I can still use the skills for. And that's where I started doing some research. I looked through Gradcracker. I got all the notifications, the job listings, and I saw the grad scheme available to me for the information technology service management. Applied, had my taster day, my assessment center, and various other things. So yeah, I think it was really the placement year that allowed me to gain a clearer picture of the future path that I was looking to take.
I think that's fantastic. What great guidance, because I think you're right. You know, you've studied this degree, you've gone and tried it out, decided actually that's not right for me. And what a great way to kind of find that out, rather than going into a grad role and then thinking, okay, now, and you know, that's the benefit of doing a placement year, and you'll have picked up so many other skills during that period as well. Catherine, I just want to bring you back in here. Are you quite open to degree disciplines when you're looking for your roles then?
Yeah, so we don't look for particular degree backgrounds. I mean, it certainly helps if, let's say, you're applying to be a software engineer. If you've got a computer science background, then that's great. But if you're not from that background, don't let it discourage you. We look more for those passions and interests. So my recommendation would be, if you are in a degree where you know that you might want to go into something different after university, look at any courses that you can pick up in your free time. There's lots of online courses that you can pick up over the summer. And it really does just help to boost your CV and kind of tailor it to that role that you're applying to.
Perfect. Thank you, Catherine. That's some great advice there, if you are looking to kind of change course a little bit, just to make yourself stand out even more. Okay, Collins, just coming back to your current role, and kind of everything that you've done so far, you're talking about operational improvement and improving efficiency. Is that predominantly internal work that you're doing, or are you working with external clients as well?
It's mainly internal. I've got the lucky chance to work on a new platform we're currently developing for some of our clients. In terms of externally, we do work slightly with some of the external clients in terms of them being testers for some of the new platforms we're trying to launch. Once again, it's the feedback from them that drive my role in terms of what we can improve, what can be changed, what can be adjusted. So yeah, there is a combination of predominantly internal, but we do get a lot of feedback and interaction with our external clients as well.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Collins. Now, I know we do have another question from the audience, but I think a lot of that has been covered. But Carla, I'm gonna come back to you anyway.
Let me make that decision.
Yeah, let you make it.
So I know Collins, you spoke about transferable skills, obviously from your chemical engineering degree. AD has asked a question. So AD is also a chemical engineer, and what can you be more specific in the transferable skills that you got when you were a chemical engineer and how you've transferred those to Experian? Are there any specifics that you can talk about?
Okay, yeah. So data analysis is one. I know during, especially my dissertation project, there was a lot of data we'd have to break down to then create basically the whole report on. So there was a lot of skills like with even the applications I'd use, like Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint, Word. All of those skills I still use till this very day to break down and crunch that data. Teamwork, interactions, communicating with the team. We have regular meetings and things like that. That doesn't really change much, but you build those foundations in uni almost regardless of what kind of course you've done. So yeah, critical thinking, problem solving, those kind of things as well. There's a lot of bumps in the road that can just pop up randomly. So being able to adapt and kind of think on the fly is something that I really built more during my degree, and that's still helping me out greatly till this day. So yeah, plenty there.
So you've never felt a little bit of an outsider almost, doing an engineering degree, chemical engineering, and being surrounded by like computer science people and everything else. You've always felt like you can fit into Experian.
Honestly, now that's rarely ever a thought. But at the very, very start of the grad scheme, yes, that's the kind of situation I was in. I was kind of surrounded by like people that had done degrees and disciplines more closely associated to what Experian generally offers. And yeah, it's not unusual to feel that way. But after literally like a week or two, just getting to talk to the early careers team that were putting on plenty of resources for us to kind of just settle into Experian, and then actually getting to carry out my rotation, getting in the thick of things, guidance, the pacing, the resources available, the mentorship provided both by the early careers team and my actual business unit. It allowed me to build that confidence in this kind of new world, but and it also just allowed me to just learn on the job. I think there's different types of learners, and I'm very much a learn hands-on type of person. So yeah, the resources, the mentorship, and actually just getting in the thick of things really build that confidence. And yeah, those thoughts, I rarely ever get them now. So definitely worked.
Fantastic. And like Catherine mentioned as well, students who want to apply who might not have that technical experience, and you Catherine mentioned courses, having a look at online courses over the summer. Are there any specific courses, Collins, that now you're at Experian that you think, oh, you could do with learning that coding language or learning that extra skill? Is there anything that you think that students should keep an eye out and study before the start?
I think it depends on the exact role you may be looking at. I think for software development and things like that, there's some base languages that you probably benefit from. Just I rarely code myself in my day-to-day job, but I do have that foundational experience in languages like Python, for example. So I think getting the base fundamentals down is something that can be done by looking at foundational courses in Python, even before getting onto like a placement or a grad scheme. That can be just done in your free time. The main thing for that is, as well as understanding a language like Python, you get the basic transferable skills that will allow you to learn plenty of other languages that may be closer to the role that you apply for. So yeah, just get out there. There's plenty of resources, and yeah, there's nothing wrong with getting yourself a bit extra set.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Collins.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much for that overview and your hints and tips as well. And I think Karen Deep also mentioned Python. You mentioned things like SQL. There's lots of different things. If you are really keen on a career with Experian specifically, that you could probably think about before you put that initial application in or started the role. So perfect. We are going to cover now a little bit more about the day-to-day projects, work that you've been involved in so far. So Sam, I'm going to come back to you now. Can you tell us about, one of the key projects you've been involved in so far? I know you've only been there 6 months, but give us a bit of an introduction or a flavour of what you've been involved in.
Yeah, we're actually at quite an exciting point in the project I'm working on at the moment. We're about to start our kind of preview. So that's not going out to customers, but like other people in the business can see what we've been working on for the last couple months. So that's really exciting. It's like what we're working on is kind of like a data quality tool. So once you have all your data, is it any good, basically? There's a lot of like analysis on that, which is really interesting to do. For languages, because a couple of people have mentioned it, most of what I've been doing is JavaScript. I know there's other people that use Java a lot in their day-to-day, and SQL is always good because there's a lot of data at Experian. So if you kind of understand how to interface with databases, that's always good. That's one of the things I've actually been kind of training myself on in my spare time.
Yeah.
Is kind of doing, SQL courses and upping my skills there.
And have you been doing that, outside of work or also during your time at work?
During my time at work, because I'm on the early careers program, my manager understands that, there's a lot of training that I'll be doing through that. So yeah, he's been really good. He said, if I want to block out an afternoon once a week to just do training, I can. So I do that sometimes. It's nice to have a break.
Yeah, no, that's nice that you've got the time and the opportunity to kind of go and look at those skills. So with JavaScript, was that something that you were familiar with before you joined Experian? Was that one of the sort of languages you'd used before?
I used it a little. I wouldn't say it was my best language before, but I always say, I think I said this in my interview, the thing that I find really useful about doing a computer science degree isn't learning a specific language, it's learning how to learn them.
Yes.
So that's why doing there's a million different online courses for any language. Try a couple out. If you really enjoy one, do more in that. Because my dissertation was in a completely different language. It was in Swift, which is what you write apps in, for like iPhones and stuff. So I did it in that. But because I was really passionate about it, when I was talking about it in my interview, I think it came across very well. I think I had to stop myself from going on too long a few times.
It's good that you knew to do that, though. I mean, that's quite an impressive skill in itself, because I do not have that skill, as Carla will well know.
No comments.
No, that's great. So tell me a little bit more about the product that you're currently working on. How is that going to help the business from now?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like a new version of something we sort of already have. So that's kind of useful to have the original version, and we've got all the feedback from customers. That's what they want out of it now. So a lot of it is focused on making it more kind of customer friendly, because like web based. So that's been really good to do a lot of like HTML, CSS, which I haven't done before. So yeah, we do quite a lot of talking to like other parts of Experian as well. Like I was speaking to someone from the data office a couple of weeks ago about them potentially using it because they currently use like a third-party program for some of their data management. So it's kind of making everything be one solution rather than you have a lot of places have like 5 or 6 different programs, which would add up to do what we'll hopefully be able to do in one. Just kind of making it simpler for everyone.
Improving efficiencies there, Collins.
Yeah.
No, that's great. And I think it sounds like you've got a lot of exposure to different areas of the business, very, very early on in that's the first sort of 6 months. And you've obviously got support from managers, the early careers team to kind of upskill as well. And you've mentioned just in that sort of 3 or 4 minutes there, quite a lot of different coding languages and experiences. So, I mean, for somebody coming from a computer science background watching this, they'll probably be thinking, oh, wow, I can learn so many different things at Experian. So thank you very much for that, Sam. Karandeep, I'm coming back to you now to talk about your work so far. What have you been doing in the first 6 months?
Yeah, so I mean, as we all know, artificial intelligence and machine learning is a growing area. And my team have been working on switching to a artificial intelligence and machine learning data provider to change the way that we get business information. So my role in that has been pretty crucial in terms of working closely with these large language models to ensure these models' accuracy and to ensure the data quality. So that's consisted of me testing data. So our whole team will regularly test data and we'll feed that back to the company that we're collaborating with. So they're able to continuously make tweaks in their models and to improve those accuracies, sorry. And yeah, and then another thing that I've been working on alongside that is about creating a presentation deck which really highlights the benefits of us collaborating with this company. And this is something that we're going to be using to distribute around the company internally. It's been used in a presentation tool with EMA and Brazil. So yeah, it's something that I've been working on that will highlight the benefits, and so people can really start to understand why we're wanting to switch data providers and why that's actually really beneficial to us.
That's amazing. So there's, you know, two sides to that. You know, you're obviously working with brand new technologies. I mean, I wouldn't even know how do you check whether the AI machine learning model is giving you accurate data? How do you even check that?
So we're getting a load of data, and we have to compare that to as if we were going to find the data ourselves. So we have to go online, see, like, research this company, see whether what the model has picked up is actually correct compared to what we would find as a human. And yeah, we're able to check whether they're picking up the wrong thing, and sometimes it won't always pick up the right thing, and then it's all about understanding why they picked this up and not picked up this thing. So there's lots of, like, it's almost about trying to understand how the model works and yeah, replicate a sort of action that we would do ourselves.
Interesting. That must be absolutely fascinating. And I think the other side of what you were saying was putting together a presentation, you know, that's really working on your communication skills and you know, learning a completely different thing alongside the technical. So that's a really fascinating project. So thank you for that. What's the next rotation that you'll be taking, Karandeep?
So the next rotation I'm moving into is called DIG. So it's a data delivery rotation. It's all about actually creating these consumer credit reports and running the code for these, understanding how they're created, checking them over. That's what I know of as of now. However, in a month when I move over, I'm sure I'll know way more.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always like so much more to learn. And like you mentioned, like, soft skills was like another big thing that I was keen on sort of developing, and I also communicated that to my manager. So being able to create this presentation and then present it was like a really big deal, and it was a great opportunity.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That's a really great insight, and I hope the next rotation is just as interesting for you, but it sounds like it will be. Collins, I'm going to come back to you now, because obviously you've been with the business for, you know, just over 2 years, as you said. Is there any kind of key project or anything that you've worked on so far that you would like highlight as a favorite or a highlight for you?
I think the one I'm currently on. So we're in the midst of creating a new platform, more accurately, a portal for our business-to-business clients. It just provides a few more resources for them to be able to solve some of their issues directly. Provides them with a new ingress method to be able to report certain statuses to us, or if they're struggling to use any of our products, and gives that two-way communication channel. The reason it excites me quite a bit is there's a lot of longevity and future to what we can do with the portal specifically. We're looking at various other aspects such as like marketing, sales, all these different business areas that can be incorporated into what we're working on. So I actually got to start on that while I was still on the grad scheme, I think literally like 6 months in. And the fact that I've been able to see it grow a step at a time, to the point now we've got some trial clients on using it effectively, and it's actually showing those results. It's quite exciting to see. So yeah, that's definitely what I have as my highlight so far.
That's brilliant. I think it's so nice that you've been able to see that kind of right from the start and then moved all the way through it. It's always nice to kind of see how things are coming to fruition. So, and it sounds like you've had some fantastic experiences, and just like Karandeep and Sam, that the variety that you've experienced just, you know, very early on in your career. I know you've obviously been there longer than Sam and Karandeep, but still 2 years, there's a lot of stuff that you've done from telling us today. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to stick with you now, Collins, because I just want to touch upon, before we come back to the recruitment process, about life outside of work at Experian. You know, the events and things that you might have been involved in, what the social life is like. Obviously, you've rolled off the graduate scheme now, but tell us a bit about how everybody gets involved with each other.
Yeah, so I think Sam mentioned earlier that there's quite a few regular early careers events. So while I was a grad, there were various like dinners out, off-site events, things like that, just to encourage that networking aspect for the grads to meet each other. Towards the end of the grad scheme as well, I took part in a few nuanced projects where we create, I don't want to play spoiler to Sam or Karandeep here, but where we essentially create like a bit of a business plan business idea. We present it to a few executives in the business. All our line managers were there, and it was like a really good event, just to showcase like what we've picked up over the 2 years during the grad scheme. Even beyond the grad scheme now, our business unit, and this will vary from business unit to business unit, there's quite a few offsite days where pretty much all the teams come in. Once again, similar to the early careers scheme, it's to encourage that networking aspect, meet people you wouldn't really interact with on a day-to-day basis, and just kind of get to know each other, understand a bit more about what other teams do, and see what piques your interest, because there's plenty of things that I've kind of looked at and been like, oh, I didn't know that's pretty cool. I've followed up with those people, and it's actually worked out into like mini projects here and there. So yeah, there's plenty. There's always something going on.
Wow, sounds like it. Sounds like you're very busy. Brilliant. And Sam, I'm going to come back to you now, because at the beginning of the webinar, you mentioned that you were getting involved in a corporate social responsibility project next. So tell us a little bit about what that involves.
Yeah, well, sort of hopefully getting into it soon. I don't really have any details yet, I'm afraid.
Okay.
But I can kind of add to some more social things we have.
Yeah, perfect.
Like I'm in the London office. I don't know about Collins and Carandeep, but we always have stuff going on here. We have like month end and a couple other like sort of monthly meetings with everyone in the business unit. So it's cool to get an idea of what's going on outside of just coding for me, especially because I can kind of get blinkered and just what I'm doing. So that's really interesting. There's also a load of fun stuff, like we have monthly drinks. We had free croissants today because it's World Croissant Day or something.
Nice.
So we had croissants in the office, which is fun. There's always something going on, which is nice. It's always good to come into the office if I can.
Yeah. Lovely. Thank you, Sam. Is there anything that you would add, Carandeep, about your experiences, social side of things, before we head back to find out about the application process?
No, yeah, pretty similar to what both Sam and Collins have said. Like our business unit, I think I was here for about 2 weeks, and we had an offsite at Centre Parks, which was great.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is good. Yeah, so it's always like they're always doing something. Like there's always like early careers Stefan, or there's something going on in our business unit. So yeah, there's always something to do.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Well, thank you all so much for giving us an overview of what you've been involved so far, both inside and outside of work. It's great for our audience to get an understanding about what life is really going to be like if they joined a business, and you've done a really great job of telling us that. So I'm going to hand back to Carla now, and we'll hear about how to get that job.
How to get their job. Thank you very much, Sophie, and thank you everybody. Catherine, so we've just mentioned at the beginning of the webinar that you do have some opportunities open. I know that you've got some coming up as well, which is really exciting. Students can obviously find out all about Experian on your hub on Gradcracker. There's lots and lots of information on there. So after this webinar, make sure you go and take a look. But can you tell the students when they click on that apply button what the process looks like from then on?
Absolutely. So we have a 4-stage application process. So once you click that link on Gradcracker, that will take you through to the Experian job listing, where you can then submit your full application. So application wise, we would need a CV from you, optional cover letter. It's really up to you whether you want to include a cover letter or not. What I would say is that if you do decide to include a cover letter, just make sure that you are adding something extra onto your application and not just repeating all of the same information that's already in your CV. But you can have a really strong application without a cover letter, so it's really up to you how you wish to kind of format all of that. So we review every CV application that we receive. There is no AI involved in our process. So if you do decide to apply, it will either be myself or my colleague Amy reviewing your CV. And from there, we will then decide whether we want to progress you on to the next stage, which is online testing. So online testing consists of 2 types of tests. You'll be asked to complete what's called a situational judgment test. That's where you're presented with lots of different scenarios, and you're asked to respond to the scenario in the way that you feel is most suitable in a workplace environment. And the second test is what's called a G+ test, or sometimes known as a general ability test. And this test is a little bit more numerical. It's there to measure your inductive, deductive reasoning skills. So that one, it is a timed assessment, it's about 36 minutes long, but there are lots of practice tests that you can do online to help yourself prepare for that. The third stage in the process then is a video interview. So we'll review your test results, and if you do meet the kind of requirement, you'll be invited to complete a one-way recorded video interview. You're presented with 4 different questions and you're asked to record a response to each question. You've got about a minute to record your response. And then what we'll do at that point is review your full application up until that point, and we'll then invite the final candidates to join us at an assessment centre. So this is all held virtually, it's on Microsoft Teams, and as a part of the assessment centre, it's a full day. You can expect to do a group exercise and a competency-based interview. And for some of our other roles, you can expect to do a bit of a technical exercise as well. And then that is the last stage of the process. So following the assessment centre, we'll let the successful candidates know who's been successful and send some offers out, which is the really exciting part.
I was just going to say, that's a nice bit of our job. Thank you very much for that, Catherine, and I'll second that. So I work with Amy as well, so Amy and Catherine in the recruitment team, and it is a very, very personal touch, and I think that always comes across when we speak to Experian as well. So you mentioned, and also Karen Deep mentioned earlier on as part of the webinar, about the one-way interview and the video interview. So I'd like to get some hints and tips, Catherine, about two of the processes, so the interview and also the assessment centre. So what kind of thing do you look out for when you are watching back these video interviews?
So I'd say we're looking to get to know you as a person. We're not looking for a perfect
Catherine,
answer.
yours sounds a bit weird. Is it coming? Can you hear that, sir?
Now?
Yeah, it's gone a bit like a little bit of a buzz on it for some reason.
Just wiggle your computer.
Okay.
I find
Can you hear me now? Is that okay? Still not right?
You still sound a little bit like a robot.
A little bit roboty. Can you come back to me and I'll put my headphones?
Yes.
I don't know if that will help.
Put your headphones in, Catherine, and what I'll do is, Karen Deep, you're going to hate my love, but I'm going to put you on the spot now, so I'm sorry in advance. So you did talk about the video interview side of the interview process. So, you mentioned it was a little bit strange doing that, just talking to kind of yourself in the screen. So students who are watching, what kind of hints and tips would you give those students?
I think the biggest piece of advice I could give is to know yourself, in terms of know what your skills are, know what your experience is, so you can just draw on that when you're doing these interviews, because you don't get a lot of time to prepare for them, and it can feel like a lot of pressure, just obviously just speaking off the bat and answering these questions and knowing that, I've only got 1 minute to answer it, or I might not have another go. So if you're just confident in the fact that you know yourself, you know your skills, you know what you bring to the table, you can call on these when you're answering questions, and then you won't really feel like you've forgotten too much. That would be my biggest piece of advice.
Yeah. Did you practice in the mirror, or just talking to yourself on the computer, or is that a bit weird?
No, I did.
I'd probably practice talking to myself.
I practiced your very general interview questions. Sort of why do you want to work here, etc. I practiced them, but the rest of them I kind of just went in with thinking I know what I can bring to the table. You get a minute to prepare, so I'd make a few notes and then I would just go from there. So yeah, there's not really too much practice you can do in terms of you can't practice every question under the sun. So it's about knowing how to sort of answer them interview questions and kind of knowing what they're sort of looking for.
Knowing yourself, knowing your experiences, and be confident as well. And I think, thank you very much, Karen Deep, for that. Sorry to put you on the spot. Have we got you back, Catherine?
I hope so. Is that any better?
Yay, that is perfect, Mother. Thank you very much. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Good.
Frantically put your headphones in. But from a recruitment, Karen Deep stood in really well for you there. But just from a recruitment point of view, anything that you look for as part of the process?
So ultimately, the purpose of that video interview is to get to really understand your motivations for the role, for joining Experian. So my top tip really is just to, in your preparation, really think about why this role, and again, why Experian. Do your research on Experian before the interview. And just going back to what I said earlier as well, be yourself. I think a lot of people put a lot of pressure on themselves trying to see the perfect answer. That's not what we're looking for. We just want to get to know you and get to understand whether kind of what you're looking for fits with what we're offering. So yeah, but going back to what Karen Deep said, I think that's absolutely right. Like, you can't prepare for absolutely every answer. So just doing as much prep as you can, and preparing a few examples and things, but other than that, just be yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And showing your passions and interests, which I know you said earlier on in the webinar as well. And then moving on, if I can, Catherine, to the assessment centre. So I know some people feel a bit anxious about the assessment centre process as well. So any hints, tips that you would like to share about that stage?
Yeah, so with the assessment centre, I mean, that same feedback definitely does apply as well. I think for the assessment centre, it's just important to remember that it is a two-way process. So I know it can be really daunting to feel like you're being assessed through a day, but it's as much for you to get to know the business as it is for the business to get to know you. And I think that's really important, especially with a graduate role, because you want to make sure that you are in the right role and you're getting that right support in the first couple of years of your career. So top tips, again, be yourself. Absolutely, like, we want to get to know you. Ask lots of questions and don't be afraid to ask questions. Certainly with our assessment centres, we will allow you lots of opportunities for questions. We have a networking session built into the day where we'll be joined by current grads so that you can get to understand more about, like, the day-to-day of the role. And in your interview as well, please don't come along to an interview without questions. That is my one thing. Always ask a question, even if it's a really small question, just ask something.
Yeah, absolutely perfect. Thank you very much, Catherine, for that. And what we're going to do now is speak to the grads about their experiences. And Karen Deep, I'm going to come to you again now, so sorry. But I know you've prepped for this question, and talking about how you use Gradcracker to prepare your application. So tell the audience a little bit more about that if you can.
Yeah, so I know Catherine mentioned sort of like knowing about the company, and I think that's really important. And you could, all of these things that you can find out on Gradcracker under the Experian Hub. So I think it's really important to know, to like research the company, understand their values and their culture, and to understand like what else can they bring. So we have like several different, I think they're called ERGs, which are like, there's one called like Women in Experian. I know I definitely called on this in my interview, as this stood out to me. There's so many more as well. And so yeah, really starting to understand the company that you're interviewing for, and understanding how their values are important to you and important to sort of the place that you're looking to work. So this is all information that, again, you can find on Gradcracker and under the Experian Hub, and being able to sort of like highlight your key skills that are relevant to the job. So again, if you go onto the job listing on Gradcracker, you can see what Experian are looking for from you, and you're able to sort of incorporate that into your answers, into your application, and you're able to highlight these. I think that's really important.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Karen Deep. And thank you for everybody who attended this webinar today. It's been really, really insightful. And me and Sophie wish you the best of luck when you get your applications into Experian. And just cast your mind back to the beginning of the webinar when Catherine mentioned there are opportunities which are currently live and open on the Experian Hub on Gradcracker. So you can get your applications in now. Don't leave it, don't dilly-dally, make sure you get your applications in sooner rather than later. And Sophie, I'm going to get told off saying dilly-dally probably at the end of this webinar by the look on that face. So yes, get your applications in, and don't forget also to follow Experian as well to be alerted when the new opportunities come in, hot off the press from Catherine and Amy in the recruitment team. So this is my last webinar of the season. So I'll be back in September, but Sophie and Jessica will be back next week. Again, same time, same place, Thursday at 2 p.m, where they will be joined by the Intellectual Property Office. So Sophie and Jess will look forward to seeing you then. I'll look forward to seeing you all in September, and good luck with the applications, and we'll see you all again soon. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.